In the previous episode, we explained in detail what will make the car move and how it will work. As a result, our sandwich of a Nissan Leaf motor, a Mercedes gearbox, and an adapter plate looks like this. Now all that's left is to assemble everything and put it into the car. Snag turned out to be the flywheel. As a result, we ordered several flywheels by part number, and only on the third try did we get a suitable one.
So we picked up the flywheel. I hope this time it fits. Now we're gonna measure it.
In the comments under the previous video, you really left a lot of criticism. Well, we make content for you, so we have to respond to the comments. That's exactly what we'll be doing throughout this video.
Guys, carefully take apart the gearbox, completely throw out all the internals, and insert a metal rod so there's a direct connection between the input and output.
There were a lot of questions and criticism regarding the automatic transmission. To be fair, there were also some useful comments with constructive criticism. We will go over this topic in detail and answer all your questions in the next episode when we power up the engine and the car will in a sense start moving. In the meantime, Kolya welded the adapter plate and took the assembly to test fit it to the body. The next step is to make a subframe, which will be used to mount the gearbox and engine.
A set of plates has been made to attach the main engine subframe to the car's frame. A large plate to which the subframe itself will be attached, a matching plate on the opposite side of the frame, a plate that will connect these two plates from the inside, thus creating a box and two bushings so that when you tighten the bolts, the frame doesn't get compressed.
While Kolya is working on that, let's move to the next comment.
The Bukhanka has been gone for 8 months. As a result, there was an episode about the steps, and we also showed the engine that will eventually be installed there. At this rate, by the end of the project, it will be a car of the past, not the future.
Yes, in the last episode I said that 8 months had passed since the previous one was released. And that's because monetization was turned off, and the project was simply on pause for a long time. For some reason, many people thought that we spent 8 months making the retractable side steps. I hope that's been cleared up. Meanwhile, Kolya is bending pipe after pipe, and I'm enjoying your comments.
It's just a bare frame, and they're working on the side steps. It's just one ad after another and nothing actually useful. I bet in the next video they'll be installing Evo floor mats. Nonsense, not content. In a word, the video is garbage.
Let me explain a bit about how we work. We have a lot of people on our team, and everyone has their own job. Some processes move faster, some slower. Believe me, if Lesha is working on the illuminated side steps, that doesn't mean Kolya has stopped welding the subframe in the meantime. If you use that kind of logic, it's almost as if you're saying a tower crane operator should patiently wait until the painter completely finishes wallpapering before even starting work on the next building. Try to be kinder and take a deeper look at the situation. It has... gotten dark outside. Another Kolya day has passed. In the end, this is the kind of structure that has taken shape, and it's where the engine and gearbox will be mounted. Of course, all of this needs to be set on mounts. In fact, Kolya is welding the mounting points for them right now. And now, a little more criticism.
If this is a Bukhanka, then why isn't it four-wheel drive?
Yes, there were a lot of comments saying that our Bukhanka isn't meant for off-roading, and that it's not really a Bukhanka anymore. In previous episodes, I mentioned that we clearly won't be allowed to drive this car on public roads. And this is purely a fun project, where we'll implement a lot of unusual solutions, simply because it's cool, and that's what we want to do. The car will be fully functional, but at best it will only be driven to exhibitions. Basically, it's a concept car, a showstopper, I think that's what they call it. The engine will be mounted at 2 points, and accordingly, on 2 mounts. Simple, cheap, and readily available Niva mounts. With the gearbox, it's a bit more complicated, a bit fancier. Here I had to buy an original Mercedes mount, since our gearbox is from a Mercedes. And finally, the long-awaited first fitting. The next step, in order for all of this to have a chance to move, is to connect the gearbox to the axle, of course, through the drive shaft. As a result, an original Mercedes drive shaft was purchased. But, of course, its length and our axle are not compatible at all, so Kolya mercilessly cuts it and sends it to a specialized workshop.
While we've handed the drive shaft over to the specialists for welding and balancing, we have some time to experiment once again with the wheel arch and the wheel size. We're not really satisfied with the wheel size, it seems a bit too small. And on such a huge vehicle, a small tire profile just looks ridiculous. That's why we bought a new set of tires with a higher profile, and since the profile turned out to be much bigger.
So we'll have to completely redo the wheel arch. But before we do that, we need to mount the new tires on the remaining wheels. First of all, we completely disassembled our semi-custom wheels. As you can see, they're made up of 3 parts and are held together by a bunch of bolts. I don't remember the exact number anymore, and since they are 3-piece wheels, the connecting seam needs to be thoroughly degreased and sealed, because after the previous assembly, 3 out of 4 wheels became a bit less airtight than before. Hi to Andre.
Once the assembly is done and hopefully airtight, we head to the tire shop, of course, all under your comments. What side skirts? At least assemble the car, at least the body. You just have a bare, strange frame. There were also a lot of questions about why we started working on the side skirts when the body itself isn't even ready yet. If you look more closely, these side skirts are actually part of the body, since we welded the main structural mounts to the frame, and it makes the most sense to finish all the welding work right now. Yes, of course, we could have done without the illuminated covers, but then there would have been a whole new set of questions. Something like, you started making the side skirts and didn't even finish them, but this way we clearly showed what it's going to look like. In the end, at the tire shop, they helped us mount the tires onto the rims, but they couldn't inflate the wheels. Let me remind you, these are huge 22-inch wheels, and there are a number of challenges here, but a small explosion solves this problem. To make 4 fender arches and have them all turn out the same, we put together a very simple makeshift caliper tracer from whatever materials we have in hand, basically. Its outer diameter matches the outer diameter of the wheel. We installed a simple stud with nuts, which will draw out our new arch. This way we'll make 4 identical arches.
Surely, many people will say that we should have first made an accurate 3D model and followed it. Then we wouldn't have had to redo the arches twice and so on. And of course you would be right. Unfortunately, we didn't have that option. This is our first project. When we started, we had a choice: get started, do something, and figure things out as we went, or not start and wait for perfect conditions. In other words, a time that will never come. That's exactly why we end up redoing everything several times, but we do redo it. And let me repeat once again, we're not filming a masterclass. We're just goofing around in our workshop and having fun. And while we're having fun, Kolya is working. After another day, here's what we have.
Regarding the work done, In order to install larger diameter wheels, we modified the wheel arch, making the opening bigger. To do this, we cut out the old arch, set up our jig and compass, marked everything for the new one, rolled out a new arch profile on the tube rolling machine, test fitted everything, aligned it, and welded it in place. We had to modify the door, reworking it so that it would fit along the new arch. And we added a third hinge to the door so that it wouldn't sag under load. Now everything works. We're more than satisfied with the way it looks. We're not afraid to make mistakes. Whether it's the overall proportions of the body, the shape of the arches, or the fact that we're attaching an electric motor to an automatic transmission. If something goes wrong, we'll simply redo it. After all, we're not a professional design bureau, and we're certainly not filming a detailed car assembly manual in our garage. What we do is find interesting and creative ideas, and then we apply them to our own, let's say, unique concepts. If this inspires even just one person to get off the couch and actually do something, we'll be very happy.
So, friends, it's finally time to panel our bukhanka. And we're going to cover the outline of our vehicle. We'll use fiberglass for these parts here, but we won't be covering the entire outline with fiberglass. We're only applying fiberglass to certain separate fragments. And for that, we need materials. So we're heading to the store. Let's go!
While Valera is wandering around the store, I'll tell you a bit about our idea. Initially, the concept looks like this.
This is roughly the picture we're aiming for. As you can see, it's as minimalist as possible. Recently, we made a hood with clever lighting. That's when the idea came to implement the same technology in the trim of the bukhanka and eventually integrate and link it to the turn signal, running lights, and brake light functions. Just a little patience, and we'll show you exactly how this will look in real life. Let's head to the workshop.
First, we remove the elements that have already been fitted to the body. The next step, to make our work easier, is to come up with this simple structure, something like a formwork.
This is what our formwork currently looks like, as you can see. We'll actually be treating these formworks right here with this specific material that you see in front of you. The first stage is priming our parts. The primer is just regular, construction grade, not a concentrate. Already diluted to the brim, even a bit over the top. Looks like I poured way too much here. Oh well. Wow, that's a lot, as you can see. Why are we priming? It's in order to create maximum adhesion for the putty. All right, let's go.
At this stage, we are using regular construction putty and primer. First and foremost, and most importantly, this is mainly because they're water-based, which means they won't eat away at the foam board. By the way, here's how polystyrene reacts to solvent-based material. As you can see, that's not really suitable for us. The technical characteristics of the putty at this stage don't matter at all, since we're making a one-time mold that we'll use to take a matrix and then throw away. And of course, the cost of this putty is also a nice bonus, since it's 10 times cheaper than professional automotive body repair putties. That's exactly why Andre doesn't hold back and applies it with a brush. He applies as much as he wants. Of course, this material has both advantages and disadvantages. At this stage, the main drawback is that it takes a very long time to dry. But eventually, it does dry, and Andre perfects the mold and then prepares it for taking the matrix. First, the alcohol-based separator followed by the black gel coat. The edging molds for our loaf have already completely dried out, and now, at long last, we can finally and carefully separate them from the loaf itself.
Well, almost. That is some of the putty remained on the mold. But it came off because our plug was kind of makeshift, meaning it was made out of sticks and more sticks, but we just need to clean it up a bit, and we have an excellent mold for the edging. I cleaned up our mold, and now we're starting to apply the separator. I'll be using the alcohol-based one that I've come to like. First of all, because I like its smell. Secondly, because it's single-use and we only need to make one part. Wax separators are used for multiple releases. We don't need that. It's great too, but I prefer the alcohol-based one. Our separator has already dried, so now we can start molding our parts. The technique is already well known to everyone by now, so I won't repeat the technical details. I'll just remind you that we won't be using gel coat, because our part needs to be semi-transparent, and we'll be using templates for our part to avoid torn pieces of fiberglass mat, which would create cloudy, less transparent spots. Let's get started. That's right. In order to achieve the intended effect, a glowing outline in your part needs to be semi-transparent. And that means we have to forgo the black, non-translucent gel coat. But while Andre is working on that, let me give a bit more explanation.
So, what have you done in 8 months? You still haven't installed the engine, but you're already putting in illuminated side skirts for kids?
Yes, many of the processes and their sequence may seem illogical to you. In part, you're right. If only we were working in ideal conditions. Often we run into difficulties, and sometimes we have to wait several weeks for certain parts and components. That's exactly why we tackle the tasks we can handle at the moment, while other seemingly more important processes are at a standstill. So, following that logic, we should all just go home, wait until all the parts arrive for the perfect process sequence, and then meet up in the workshop again in a month or two. In principle, that's not a bad plan, but unfortunately our money printing printer broke down. So we adapt to the circumstances and do what we can. We're preparing our semi-transparent overlay for varnishing. Well, our little parts have been molded and have dried. Let's start removing them from the mold. You can even give them a little crackle, like cracking your knuckles in the morning. Oh, nice sound. Ta-da! It's semi-transparent, just like we wanted, because there will be an LED strip inside, and something will light up. The angle grinder will help us. Hooray! In the end, after a week of work, we've produced a whole mountain of little parts, which now need to be joined together into one continuous outline of the van. This is the one that's going to light up. So now we need to think about the joints. And on the van, there will be 3 large parts, one in the center, like this, and the side pieces. And now we need to somehow join these pieces together so that the seam is as inconspicuous as possible. The most important thing right now is to remember where these elements go and put them in their proper places. We abandoned the idea of making such a huge single-piece monolithic part right away, because it will probably be quite inconvenient to manufacture. Now, we'll take a moment to think about how to properly make the joints. Here you can see there's an overlap, and that's going to be a problem for us. The plan for gluing straight parts is as simple as possible. I'll glue them together in the mold using a thin strip of fiberglass mat. We don't have any 150 gram fiberglass mat in stock, so we'll tear a 300 gram one in half. I put a thin impregnated fiberglass mat underneath, cover it with parts, then press it down with clamps on top again with such a short part. We lay the design soaked fiberglass mat and press it down with clamps.
Did I miss it, or did no one dare to stand or jump on this sill?
I have no doubts whatsoever about the reliability of this construction. Valera did everything properly. As I said, we just put the covers on for demonstration and showed you, without fastening them. For obvious reasons, we can't prime it with an opaque primer, but it's necessary to even out the surface. So instead of an opaque acrylic primer, we use a transparent acrylic varnish. We thoroughly coat the cover with it in several layers. The next step is to apply a base gray paint. Here we didn't really match the color, we just used what we had. Later, when we do the final installation of this trim, we'll paint it in the color that matches the render. For now we're doing a rough paint job, just to show you approximately how it's going to look.
The guys gave us back the drive shaft and said that everything I had tacked together and connected here was all wrong, and they did everything properly. For this we provided the gearbox flange. They machined the fitting here for this flange, replaced all the universal joints, replaced the tube, but left us the spline section so that the drive shaft can lengthen and shorten depending on the movement of the rear suspension.
In the end, we put on 2 strips of addressable LED tape to see how it would look in real life. It immediately became clear that the lighting needs to be brighter and that we need to work on the diffuser. Also from this angle you can appreciate the proportions of the body, which I am finally 100% satisfied with. Thank you for watching and wishing you all the best.